And ladies and gentlemen, this is what is left of Malibu, California.
Last night, I had to evacuate my home in LA because of the fires, the effects of which you can see right above me. Upon reflecting, I remembered a conversation that Joe Rogan had with Donald Trump before the election about the state of wildfire management in California. It's very easy to think of wildfires as something that Mother Nature just inflicts upon us, but we have an influence over both the intensity and the frequency of these fires. And Donald Trump pointed out that there's two things that we've done in California that might be exaggerating the effects of these fires. The first is our policy around water management, and the second is our policy around clearing deadwood in our forests. Check this out.
Los Angeles, you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And they're actually thinking about rationing water. Can you believe it? I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway. And I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland, and it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north of water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. I could have water for all of that land, water for your forests. You know, your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You know, you could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires.
Largest dam removal project in U.S. history and one of the most significant, if not the most significant water restoration project, bringing back salmon and steelhead into this basin. This project could not have happened without extraordinary partnerships with tribal nations and, of course, our partners in the North and Oregon. We just finished a celebration with the Secretary of the Interior and our tribal council and tribal leaders, and I couldn't be more proud as a Californian, and I couldn't be more proud as a father, because my kids and their great-great-grandkids will have the opportunity to see something that, well, has been here since time immemorial, and it's about damn time we got this done.
And because of your kindness, the forest was so dry and everything is gone.
Now let's look at specifically what Trump was referring to here. In 2023, California implemented what's called the Fall X2 policy. This is a policy that's designed to redirect water away from areas that endanger a specific species of fish called the Delta smelt. Proponents of this policy argue that the Delta smelt are important to indigenous populations as well as important for the overall health of certain other endangered species in that area, like the Chinook salmon or killer whales. And that sounds good, but let's look at what the cost of protecting the Delta smelt actually is. In 2023, we dumped 195.5 billion gallons of water into the Pacific Ocean. That's water that could have been used for firefighting or watering farmlands. This is all happening while we're focusing on scarcity conservation-based policies, while we're dumping $200 million worth of water into the ocean to protect a relatively niche species. Now that's how we've been wasting our water, but what about our forests?
And you know, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months it becomes very dry. It's like, you know, like real firewood, it's bad. But when a tree is up, it sucks water, it's wet. I went to they had a couple of horrible forest fires in California, and I said, you know, you had a lot of trees standing. Yes, they were healthy trees, sir. I said, with this intense heat, you could see they were charred a little bit on the bottom, but they were going to be all right because they're soaking wet because they suck up the water, right? But when they fall,
Right.
they're like, you know, it's like lighting a match.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to clean, they call it maintain your forest. So I was with the head of Austria. He said, you know, it's a shame. I see all those forest fires in California, and all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, you know, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
We'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that are falling.
I think that's the real issue.
You know,
is the dead fall.
environmentally, they don't want to do that. They said, you know, it's got to be nature and all this stuff.
And while I think that is important, I don't think LA is prioritizing that. Remember to subscribe.
Remember to subscribe? ¿Por qué?
Let's talk to your own people that have a store.
I am super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to
I am super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
And all I have to say is this. I thought your job is to find the right people and hire them so you can stop fire. I think that is your main job. I just hope it doesn't have any consequences.
They don't want to do that. They said, it's got to be nature and all this stuff.
Is there some truth to Trump's claim? It turns out yes. A 2024 study found that approximately 91.4 million dead trees were spread over 27.8 million hectares of land in California. Many people in the environmental lobby will argue that we need to preserve this deadwood actually because it contributes to the natural habitat that many endangered species rely upon. But here's an example of where trying to do good actually ends up doing bad. For approximately 10 years, there was an environmental lobby that opposed clearing deadwood in the Klamath National Forest because they were trying to protect the natural habitat of spotted owls and endangered species. This caused a multi-year legal battle that ironically resolved itself when the Klamath National Forest ended up actually burning down because of the deadwood that they were trying to use to protect the spotted owl population.
Hence, you try to protect the bird, all this legal battle and all this wastes money, and guess what? For nothing, because it's burned to shred, even the bird. But yeah, that's nature. Fires happen. We can control everything. But the fact we want to make sure the fires don't happen, don't do that, because you're destroying the habitat. The bird is burned to crisp. I know, but that's nature.
These kinds of misguided attempts to protect the environment in California not only keep on ruining the environment, it's ruining human lives. And here's my personal frustration. California has the best land and the worst government in the United States. We have incompetent politicians who constantly focus on things that sound good while actually doing bad. And they focus on first-order consequences while ignoring second-order consequences. They constantly focus on popular slogans like needing to protect our environment and climate change and protecting the fish and protecting the trees while ignoring the second-order impact on humans. And ironically, like in the case of the spotted owls, in their attempt to protect endangered species, not only are they harming humans, oftentimes they're not even protecting the endangered species. And to take this a step further, I think California's government represents a dysfunctional, far-left worldview that is consistently not producing results, is just producing heated conversations. We spend more money on homelessness every year, while the amount of homeless people just keeps on increasing every year. We have reasonable people who are afraid to speak up because we don't want to be labeled as climate change deniers just for questioning some of these dysfunctional environmental protection policies. We have a governor in Gavin Newsom who left San Francisco a failed city and is slowly turning California into a failed state. This is the same governor, by the way, that during COVID recommended that we quarantine at home while he dined at the French Laundry. Ultimately, in moments of crisis like this, I am grateful that we have a government, but our government could be doing a lot better.
Perfectly said. I couldn't say it any better. I wonder what Gavin Newsom has to say about this freaking fire.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
Let me get this straight. You're the governor at a place where the fires happen over and over. You keep dry wood and there's not enough water because it's too pricey. Does it make any sense that maybe you are causing this failure?
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, boss? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
This is the LA mayor. Now you don't want to provide a response, but you did lower the budget by 20 million in a place that fires keeps happening over and over, I think almost every year. And now you don't want a response because you had the plan.
But you guys pay, I think, the highest taxes in the United States. If not, you and New York are kind of tied, or Illinois, but among the highest. No water in the hydrants. 17.6 million cut from the fire department. Karen Bass, a recent headline, I think you might have tweeted that out from the New York Post.
Yeah. And our new fire chief, has, and by the way, LA Fire Department is fantastic. The people, it's like the people who work for the federal government, so many of such good people, but the people in charge, she took over and she put on her bio that her priority, my highest priority, is inclusion, diversity, and equity. That is my priority.
You might have recall a news story from last year. There was some interest in the fire departments and the firefighters in California, and the interest was that there were too many white men who were firefighters, and we need to have a program in California to make sure we don't have enough white men as firefighters. So we have DEI, we have budget cuts, and yet I'm wondering now, if your house was burning down, how much do you care what color the firefighters are?
You can respond, and then
listen. I am so tired. You know what? There was an article that just came out that said that actually the most educated demographic in this country right now is black women. So let me be clear. Because you are a woman, or because I know that some of the right has been sharing these photos of the fact that I believe that the fire chief may be a woman or something, that has nothing to do with it. We are looking at qualifications. What diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been about is saying, you know what? Open this up. Don't just look at the white men. Open it up and recognize that other people can be qualified. And the fact that we want to, at a time when people are dying, decide that a country of immigrants is failing, or people are dying because the same very people that built this country, because the last time I checked, y'all didn't say that anything was wrong with the White House, and I can promise you it was my ancestors that built the White House. So listen, if we have been good enough to build this country, we are good enough to serve and die overseas, we are good enough to serve in other ways. And the fact that people actually decide that they want to engage in public service, whether it's sitting in Congress or whether it's serving on the fire department or the police department, should not be an issue. The fact is, stop trying to act as if only white men are the ones that are capable. Because right now you're sitting at a table with 3 very capable black women.
The fact that a white man had to wait 7 years and a black woman waited a few days.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps, and I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it, and I was standing in line, and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line, and I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago, and she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege.
And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I believe they're not going to have enough firefighters for this whole thing.
So I want to reach down and bring you up. And that's kind of something that stuck with me to this day.
Part of that work means speaking up for those who can't. Over the last few years, LAFD has dealt with a fair share of controversy, and Larson not afraid to sound the alarm.
I chose to speak out pretty much by myself about the issues of sexism and racism within my department. and the need for change. I don't think there's any question that our department is the best at fighting fires. We do it better than anybody in the world. But when it comes to the personnel side, we have some issues, and they're not insurmountable, but they need to be addressed and fixed to the best of everybody's ability. And so I want to reach down.
I can understand this person's feeling, but if I have to be honest, I don't care if a racist fireman saved me from a fire. Because there's a point that I prefer to be offended and be alive. That's way more important to me. Won't I be happy? It's a choice. No mom at 6 years old? It's a choice. Being black, being racist against me? It's a choice. I've met more racist people that I've been respectful to and they changed their heart. Suffering can be good. It's a choice.
The only reason that you're able to see us right now is because of a Starlink connection that we just got today. That's the only reason we're able to hear and communicate with you guys right now, because there's absolutely no cell service at all in this whole area.
Elon Musk wins again. For the people that don't know, Starlink is like an iPad that has internet wherever you go and people can communicate so they can help people the proper way.
Put the fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turlo que ta verdeta welcome.